we can get here, do the housekeeping and get started. So let us know where you are from. Say hello. So we're not bluntly talking to a webcam for the next hour. Let us know where you're from. Put it in the chat. Interact with us. Ask questions in the chat. And we'll get on with tonight's training in about 2 minutes. You've got 2 minutes to go have a brew, have a wee, get a notepad and a pen, because we're going to go through how you can reinvent your sales, whether it be you or a sales team. So we have got a 2-minute warning. Go get yourselves ready. Shut all the crap off in the background. Shut the computer off. Let's get this done. I'm going to show you, by the end of tonight's session, you will have a game-changing thought that will help you sell more effectively. So, hi, Robert, City of Leeds. Hi, Jay. So, game-changing thought in all of what we're doing, all of what we're trying to sell. That's what we're going to do. And this one thought literally flipped my world round on how to sell, to the point where I don't need cold calls. I don't need anything. And I'm going to teach you what that is and how you can apply it. So we've got a minute or so before we start. So just let us know you're all here. You're watching in the chat. If you're watching on LinkedIn, give us a like so that we can see that you're here. And we'll start in 1 more minute. Hi, Enala. Welcome. Curious, who's from the US here? Is there anybody from the US? Is there anybody from the UK? Anybody further afield? Step Change Procurement Solutions, welcome. So let us know where you're from. Bit of fun, it makes it interactive, and it means that I don't feel like I'm stood talking to nobody or to a screen for the next hour. So tonight's session is purely about sales and the principles behind sales. If you're a salesperson, you'll get some of this. You may have heard some of this, but we're going to flip it around in a way that maybe you've never seen before. And if you're not a natural salesperson or you don't feel comfortable selling, this will be a huge relief to you because it's going to make your life easier. So we're going to start now. So please get ready, make some notes. During the session, I'm going to refer to some free resources that we have. If you want them, I'll put an email up on screen. Just drop us an email and we'll send it to you free of charge. So that's all good. So let's get on with tonight's session. Feel free to ask questions in the comments or the chat. If you're watching on LinkedIn, please do give us a follow on LinkedIn. If you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up or a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching on our Social Selling Accelerator group on Facebook, please comment and let us know you're here. Awesome. So let's crack on with tonight's session. So just if you don't know who I am, I'm Dean Seddon. I'm not going to go into this long waffly thing, but we've helped about 150,000 people. I've been through our training, and in our accelerator programs, which are kind of like where we work with people to achieve results, over £10 million in the last 12 months. In 2020, we helped generate nearly £10 million for customers. They did the work, we just helped them. But you know, it's a good result for us, and we're really happy. And that's what we do. We help B2B businesses sell more through strategy, social selling, and all of the other things that you can do to organically sell. So let's crack on. So, reviews, all that kind of stuff. Great. So I want to ask you, and I want you to ask yourself before we get started, which of these symbols best represents what your sales activity is right now? Is it a crosshair or is it a magnet? And I want you to think about that through the whole of tonight's session, because I want to show you why the crosshair feels good, but is actually probably the wrong answer. So which one represents your sales? And are you attracting or hunting? Are you trying to find people who will buy your stuff, or are you attracting them to you? And I'll show you how this can work in the sales process tonight. So problem number one, let me just explain this diagram on the right-hand side. And I know you can't see the bottom half because of me, but at any given time, about 3% of your customer base, potential customers, are actually looking for what you've got to offer. 3%. The amount of times I've heard people say, we know we can help this company. We know, absolutely know that they are they are missing something in their business. We can help them do X, Y, and Z, and we know that they need it, but they don't know they need it. And all the way through this kind of diagram, you can see different levels of interest and different levels at the buying stage. But what happens is instinctively businesses end up hunting for active buyers. And it's actually really expensive and time consuming. A salesperson could spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I nearly said 7 days a week, but 5 days a week, just looking for that 3%. And that's what they're measured against. Their success is measured about, can they find the 3% and can they convert them? And the problem is that that breeds a culture that's very difficult to change. So let me have a look at some other problems with this methodology of looking for active buyers. So number two, to hit the numbers, you have to chase them. You see it all the time on emails, on LinkedIn, on all the places. People are chasing you down to try and sell, to find out, do you need their widget, their product, or their service, and will you talk to them? That's what everybody's trying to do. Convince people that their product or services are brilliant, and that's why they should pay more attention. That's what everybody's doing. But as you can see, not everybody's in the market right now. Not everybody's in the market right now. Third problem, you might have a record month, absolutely fantastic month. You hit your numbers, and guess what? Next month, you start all over again with very little. You might have a few things to follow up after the previous month, but effectively your efforts have to restart in the next month again. So it's a chase. It's a rat race in some senses. What happens to all the prospects who said no thanks? So in your drive to find the people who will buy now, or in whatever your sales cycle window is, in your drive to find all of them, people are saying no thanks, or not interested, or not for us. What do you do with all them? Because you're trying to find the needle in the haystack. You're trying to find the person ready to buy now. What happens to all those people who along the journey have just said no because they didn't get it, didn't understand it, or you didn't have the time to nurture them and develop them further? What happens? For most part, here's the brutal honesty. Despite us saying to ourselves, oh, we put them in our CRM and we follow them up and we keep nurturing them, nobody does. Nobody actually does. Everybody culturally that is following a hunting, trying to find the active buyers model ultimately ends up in a situation where all they're trying to do is convert numbers to hit their targets, the immediate target that's in front of them. That's what happens. And so you end up churning and burning a lot of people. What happens when you burn people who just don't know they need you? How many of your marketplace right now don't realize that you can add value? I would say a majority of people don't realize that you can add value to what they're doing. Whether that's a product, whether that's a service, the majority don't realize it. They don't get it. They don't see it. And that's one of the big problems companies face in sales. And what happens, because they don't know how to address that, they actually go on this journey of trying to hunt people down that do get it and will buy right now. So here's what happens. You burn prospects for the sake of instant sales. I am going to show you how you can turn this around. So don't get depressed. I am going to show you how you turn this around. So this was a study that was done by Les Binet and Peter Field. And it was about marketing and brand building and sales and how they all work together to achieve a result. And so what they discovered is that those businesses that pursued short-term sales actually struggled in the long term to grow. They'd have peaks and they'd have troughs, but ultimately they were on this yo-yo all the time, never really making much progress. But what they found is that if people pursued long-term sales growth, yes, there was a short-term challenge of 6 months or so, where they kind of had to bed this in and make it work. But they found that they had a longer-term sales and revenue growth from this approach that I'm going to talk to you about. Or I'm going to talk to you about one way that you can do this. And what do? instead of just focusing on the 3%, what they're doing is talking to the whole market and bringing the whole market and making the whole market aware, so that some people pay attention today and go, I want to know more. And some people also are being nurtured and developed and educated about the difference you can make in their business, the product or service, and why it matters for them, why they need to pay attention. So if you're following a short-term method, you probably have something like this. I love a good GIF. But you probably have this constant cycle running around, chasing your tail, run. And whole businesses and sales teams are built this way, to just go, right, we've done it, now start again, now start again, now start again. And it's like a chase. So it's a race. But it's a race that never seems to get anywhere because you start again all the time. So I'm going to show you a different way. I want to show you another way of doing this. So the first question I want to ask you before I show you another way is, I want to know, do you know what your most valuable pain point is? Your most valuable pain point, your MVPP. And I'll explain to you why this will make a difference to your business in a moment. But do you know what is the most valuable pain point for your business? Yeah. What is it that you do that helps your customers, that gives you the maximum amount of value? What is it that you can do for your customers that really makes it worth their while paying your fees? Yeah. Rather than, what is it? What's the features that make you sound sexy enough that you can convince somebody to buy? What's the no-brainer piece of value within your product that makes it all worthwhile? Often what people do, businesses, is they stack their value, in the sense of they make a list of all the value points, but they never really understand which are the most powerful. And it's the most powerful. Usually what happens is people buy for one reason, and all the other reasons really kind of just validate and stack it up. They add to the case of why they should buy, but it's that number one reason that really makes the difference. So your most valuable pain point. Let me bring it down into what my simpleton language, which I love. Who was it? Albert Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply enough, you don't know it well enough. If you can't explain it in simple terms, you don't know it well enough. So if you can't explain your product simply in a way that makes sense to your customers, or makes it a no-brainer for your customers, you don't know your product well enough. Because your product is for a market, it's for a customer base, and so you should understand what they see in it, not what you just see in it. So how do you find your most valuable pain point? What you need to do is list out all of the benefits of your product or service. First things first. List them all out, of the things it allows your customers to do. What does it allow them to do? Then think about the problems that must be going on in their current business, in their business right now, to need that benefit or that result. So if you can help companies save money, quantify that, and then think about what's the problem going on in their business that makes them want to save money related to that benefit. Think about that. So in almost, you're drawing a piece of paper with two columns. Write your benefits down first, the big benefits that you can offer that can help people do something. And then think about the circumstances that are going on in their business right now that mirror those benefits. Now, why do people buy? And I'm a stuck record, but I still say this because a lot of people lose sight of this. People buy to go from where they are right now to the outcome they want to achieve. Yeah. They don't care so much, within reason, how they get there. They just want to get there. And they will choose the route, the vehicle that they think is most likely to help them get to their result. Your job as selling your product or service is simply to demonstrate that you can get them from where they are now to where they want to be. And your vehicle, your product or service, is the best method of getting there. But ultimately, your customers are concerned with, where are we now? Where do we want to be? If your product or service, they believe your product or service can help them get there, and they think that's the best way of doing it, they are going to buy. You get that? If they're in a situation right now and they want to get to somewhere else, they want to go from point A to point B, yeah, A to B, they will choose the best option. So you've got B's, yeah, you've got benefits. What's the A's? Yeah, so they want to go from where they are now to where they want to be, A to B. On that piece of paper where I said divide it into 2 columns, write down all the benefits, the B's, the outcomes of where they get to. Then think about where must they be to want to get there. Does that make sense? If you're stuck with this, just ask questions in the chat. And they don't care about your product until they realize it will get them from point A to point B. So all across the internet, all across telephones across the world right now, people are picking up their phones, dialing customers and prospects and saying, hi, I'm from such and such a company, and we do this, and we can help you do X, Y, and Z, and we've got this. And they're trying to convince people that their product can do a job. When first things first, they should be talking about the things that their product allows them to do. So instead of it going, we've got this service, it's we help companies do this. We help companies grow their revenue. We help companies reduce costs. We help through X, Y, and Z. That's what we're trying to bring across here and bring out here. People don't care about your product. They don't care about your company. They only care about how you can help them achieve something. Leave pain and get to an outcome. Leave a problem behind and get to a destination. So that's where, so your job is to find your most valuable pain point. And I'll show you an example worksheet we have that you can, we can send you a copy of that will help you understand that. So your MVPP can be used to get the attention of people in pain. And I'll show you that in a minute. But let's say, for an example, you've got a customer and you approach the market, or you approach the market right now and say, hey, do you need this service? Do you need consulting? Do you need SEO? Do you need a marketing agency? Yeah. You're effectively appealing to people who are interested in a tool. Now, in another session, I talk about why that's a bad idea, to appeal to people who want a tool. And by that, I mean, they're trying to find a product or service. They're hunting down a product or service. That is where the most competition is. But the people in pain don't know what product or service they need quite yet. They haven't settled on how they're going to achieve the outcome. They're just saying, I'm in pain and I want to get to here. I'm in pain and I want to get to here. And so you can use the pain and extrapolate from the MVPP some of the things that your customers will be thinking about, frustrated about, fed up of, annoyed with, and you can use that to get their attention. Remember, part of your battle in selling is just to get the attention. If you don't get the attention, it doesn't matter how well worded that cold email is, how great your sales pitch is, if they put the phone down on you, if they ignore your LinkedIn message, if they don't open your email, it's all over. It's all over. And what we see as an industry has arisen in going, because I can't get the attention of the customer, I'll have to try harder and send them more emails. Now, there is some science in frequency and touch points and multiple touch points, whether that be cold calling, whether that be LinkedIn. But what they're doing is effectively creating more interactions in the hope that the first email was ignored, bluntly, the first LinkedIn message was ignored, the first phone call was ignored, that if I keep going, they might not ignore me. Now, some people that will work, a small percentage that will work, but the vast majority, it won't work. The vast majority, it won't work. I was on a call with a company that's looking to sell £200,000 products and services to big, massive decision makers. And they wanted to use cold calling to get that to work. And they'd seen a statistic, and I'm not telling fibs here. If you want to see it, email us and I'll share it with you. That said that their optimum statistic was if they hit up on email or LinkedIn or cold call 1,000 people, they'll get about 4 sales from it. Now, if you're selling a 200 grand product, You can't afford to waste 996 opportunities. Yeah. And that's what this process does. This process of our opening gambit with the prospect wasn't good enough. So let's try again and again and again and again. So your MVPP, these pains, these symptoms and consequences that might be going on in people's business are the things that get emails opened, that gets phone calls booked in the diary, that gets LinkedIn messages replied to. That's what LinkedIn posts even and get inquiries. That's what really makes this stuff work. Pains, gets the attention of your buyers. So the other thing, as I said, is your MVPP can turn a social media post into a sales asset. Why? Here's what most people do with their social posts. Hey, look what I've got. I've got this new gadget. Do you want to know about our latest award or our latest success or our latest piece of propaganda? They don't talk to the pains of the customer. Are you a manufacturer struggling to export to the EU? Yeah. And then they'll go, we can do this. They don't really allow people to absorb the pain. So I would be thinking about, if you're using social media to get attention of customers, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever, really talk deeply about those pains. The more you show that you understand those pains and you've helped people show people you've helped them fix it, the better it will be. And I'll tell you why it's a bad idea to just propagate and pimp out your product or service just all the time on LinkedIn or wherever. Your MVP can turn, oh, I've done a typo there. It can get a reply from a LinkedIn connection or a cold email, your MVPP. Yeah. So I'll share with you the document. I'll show you the document in a few minutes. But that document will allow you to really get in the head of the people who need your product. It will allow you to really understand it from their point of view, and it will change your whole vocabulary about how you communicate and sell to your customers. And that will transform the replies you get, because you'll understand that people don't care about your product or service. They only care about how you can help them get to a destination, to an outcome, to leave pain and get to a destination or an outcome or a result. And so you need to think about, what are the results, what are the outcomes you deliver for customers, and then map back from that the challenges and frustrations and pains, symptoms of setbacks and disappointments that might be going on in their business. And this works at any size of business, whether it be a FTSE 100, a S&P 500, or it's a small business owner. It does not matter. Human beings work the same. And as long as we are selling to human beings, this will work all the time. And the good thing about this is nobody gets churned and burned, because you can follow up based on the results. And let me give you an example. And I shared this in our accelerator program with our accelerator students last week. I wrote an email, a cold email, that went out to some prospects. The open rate was decent for cold outreach, but the click-through rate was nearly 90%. Why is that? Because I pushed the pain points of my customers, or of the customers on this email, and that got them to engage and click through and find out more information. And so where a lot of people are trying to sell in one hit, this is about finding the people with the pain and then taking them on a journey and nurturing all the other people who aren't. Don't have time to go into that into detail tonight, but maybe we can have some Q&A on this. So your MVPP is the most powerful tool you have to sell. I would say it will do the selling for you as long as you use it. As long as you exploit the pain points, you will use it. The other thing is, and again, I've got no time to go into this tonight because I want to do some Q&A. This will allow you, the MVPP and pain points, and understanding them deeply from the customer's point of view, will allow you to really use every channel in a very smart way, so that, for an example, on LinkedIn, I'll put a post up with a call link and I'll get 3 sales calls booked in off the post. Now, there's a whole other piece to that. But if you're really touching those pain points, you'll find the people who are in need right now. And then you can show them, you can go from, here's the pain, there's the outcome. Let me show you how our product or service can get you there. But you have to talk in terms of pains and outcomes. Otherwise, what happens is you end up in a situation where people they switch off because they don't see the connection. You'd be surprised how many times prospects will not get that your product can do that, or your product can ease that pain. And that's something they have to discover for themselves. So let's look at how you can use your MVPP. Let's look at how you can practically use it. Yeah, and in fact, just before we do that, I'll show you the pain document you can download from us. So this is the document we've got here, and we share it quite widely, to be honest with you. I'll just try and zoom in a little bit so you can see it a bit clearer. And I always say to people, leave this till the end and think about what's going on. What's the symptoms going on in the business? What's the consequences? What, list all of these out. And it is a bit of work to fill this in, but when you fill this in, it actually gives you content, it gives you message scripts, it gives you everything that you need to really understand your customer better, writing social posts, writing outreach emails, writing LinkedIn messages, everything, lead magnets, it does everything for you. But it is a bit of work to actually dig into this. So if you want a copy of this, I'll just put the email address up on screen whilst I'm showing it here. So if you want a copy of this, just literally email us and say, can I have a copy of the pain document? And feel free to use it. And what I suggest is people is go through all of this first, but then come back to the total pain points at the top and fill those in afterwards, because you'll do this document. And by the time you get to the end, you'll go, no, this isn't the most valuable pain point. So do that piece of paper thing first, and then start to transpose it into here. And you will have a ton of different resources that will help you sell more effectively. Does that make sense? So if you want that, just drop us an email and we'll send it to you. So how can you use your MVPP in practical ways? So let's have a look at it. LinkedIn content. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, come find me on LinkedIn and send me a connection request. Tell me you've been on the webinar so I know you're not just some random person, and I'll accept your connection request. So stop trying to convince people in your LinkedIn content that your product or services is the bee's knees, and start exposing the problem and the results that can happen. Start exposing the problem and telling people about the results. Talk about problems you can fix and give people direct call to actions. Not every post. If you want to know how to use LinkedIn to sell properly, check out our LinkedIn Elite program. But you can't sell all the time because you'll just put people off. So you need to break it up. But if you're doing a sales post, it should be talking to the pains, and I'll explain why in a second. If there's any questions, by the way, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll come and tackle them all. So that's cool. So if you've got any questions, just put them in the chat. So stop trying to convince people and start exposing the problem and the results. So why is your business losing money every year? Why does your business suffer from low employee morale? Why do you have a high churn rate on employees? Yeah, and explain the problem. Think about the symptoms. And in the pain document, it asks you to think about the symptoms. And it's actually quite tricky to think about symptoms and consequences. So let me just explain this a little bit more. So a pain point is something that's actually causing, this is the thing that's called almost like the root cause. But let's say, think about like a virus. I'll use this example because it's obviously topical. If I have a virus and I wake up in the morning with a cough, prior to what's going on right now, the first thing I'd do is go, actually, I've got a bad cough. Let's get some cough syrup. That's Dean treating the symptom of a virus. I'm trying to get rid of the cough. I'm not trying to get rid of the virus, because previously to this, I would know that the virus would just pass in a few days. So I'd just ignore that. I would be unaware of that, and I'd just try and treat the symptoms. In medicine scenario, we often as human beings don't know the difference between symptoms and a virus, because we always try and address the symptoms. So what happens if I never treat that cough? What happens if I don't get the cough syrup? What happens if I don't go to the doctor? Well, it could get worse. It could end up where I can't speak. It could end up that it's not a virus, it's something more serious, and I leave it unattended. And I could find myself with a serious illness, a life-threatening illness, if I don't address the pain and the symptoms, yeah, the cough and the underlying virus. So I could end up with a more serious illness if I don't go to the doctor and get it checked out. And so in that scenario, that's a consequence. So we have the root cause, the pain, yeah, the main pain point. I've got a virus, which people don't obviously always register. They try and treat the symptoms. Some of you have been bashing your head against a brick wall trying to sell something to people, and they just don't get that they have the pain because they're trying to treat the symptom. So for an example, they could be getting 1,000 visitors a month to their website and 0 inquiries. Yeah. They could go, well, obviously there's 2 things to do that. We need more people visiting the website. Or do they need to fix the website itself? The website isn't converting. No, we need to get more people. So they go down an advertising route to get more people. Yeah. So sometimes people treat symptoms, not the root, the actual cause that's causing the problem. And you need to think about that in terms of your content. Are you writing content that addresses the symptoms of what's going on? If you're selling marketing services, saying to people, do you want marketing services, only appeals to the people who are looking for a marketing agency. But if you say, do you want more sales? Do you want more inbound inquiries? People will pay more attention. And then your job is to show them how you, working with that client, can actually help them get more leads, sales, and inquiries. It's very simple. But if you go, do you want a marketing agency? They'll say, no, thanks. What we need is more people making inquiries. And so sometimes people disconnect the symptoms and the root cause, and you're talking about the root cause and they're thinking about the symptoms. And that's why you find that they say they're not interested, they don't need you. They do, they absolutely do probably, but they don't get the need because they're looking for an outcome and you're talking about, bells and whistles effectively. So LinkedIn content, use your content to talk about the problems. Number 2, cold email and messaging. Oh my God, you've seen this. It's really bad. Most people's messaging and cold outreach is horrendous. Yeah. Nobody cares you won an award. Yeah. People care about what you can achieve for them. Curiosity, and I'll come to this in a minute because it's the most powerful tool you've got, second to your pain point. Curiosity is a powerful ally. Do you want a conversation or not? Yeah. If you look at most of the emails that people send and most of the messages and most of the things that they send, they're trying to dump a whole load of information on you, hoping that all this information will convince you to buy from them or convince you to pay attention to them. They're trying to plead with you. Look how good we are. Look how amazing we are. Please, 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 fancy a call? It's pathetic. It really is. So do you want a conversation? Does what you're doing encourage a conversation? And I'm going to show you this now because this is my kind of key point for tonight. It's a bit warm in here. But here's the game-changing thought. Yeah. So if I've bored you to death to this point, here's the game-changing thought. Do you want to be involved in the decision-making process with your prospect? In other words, do you want to be in conversation with them as they're considering what you've got to offer? Is that what you want? Do you want to have had a conversation, had a two-way conversation before they decide to work with you or not? Or do you want to just people to evaluate you without you? Yeah, serious question. I know it seems like I'm asking the obvious, but think about this. Because what happens is our brains know things And then when our hands start to do stuff, there's a total disconnect. Do you want to be involved in the decision-making process with your prospect, or do you want them to do it without you? Now, everybody should be saying with. Everybody should be saying with. If you're not saying with, schedule a therapy session with me. Do you want the opportunity to have a two-way conversation to explain how you can help them? Again, no brainer. Absolutely. We want a two-way conversation with the prospects. Right. Okay. Curiosity kills cats and creates conversations. Scribble that down. Curiosity kills cats and creates conversations. Now ask yourself, am I dumping information on prospects and hoping they'll come and have a conversation with me? Or am I creating enough curiosity that they want to know more? Does my cold email outreach give people a load of information and hopes they reply to start a conversation? Or does it create curiosity and so they ask for more information? Which is it? One sells effectively and one doesn't. So here's the Goldilocks of selling. If you give too much information to the prospect, they will decide without you. So you send this long-winded email, this long-winded anything, and what you find is that they will decide without you and go, oh, we know about this, we know about this, we know about this, we don't need this. Yeah. Too much, they'll decide without you. Too little, and they'll run away from you. In other words, hi, or really weird, short, one sentence question, and it feels a bit weird. They'll run away from you. But with a bit of curiosity, the prospect will want to know more from you. So here's the killer thought. Forget your product or service. Totally forget it. Yeah. You do not want your customers or prospects to evaluate your product or service without a conversation. If you're selling something for more than £2,000, you need to have a conversation with your prospect. They're not going to just click and buy. You need to have a conversation. So forget your product or service. Your goal is to sell the value of a conversation where you can show them, you can demonstrate to them how your product or service can help them achieve a goal and lose or leave pain and get to an outcome. And that is the killer thought of you, what you should be doing in selling. If your product or service requires a conversation to explain it more, don't try and give half an answer. Talk to people about pains and outcomes, and then introduce them on the call to how you can fix that pain and get them to that outcome. Think about all of your marketing messages, all of your sales messages. Are they creating curiosity so people want to know more, or are they blasting information to explain everything so they don't need you? Remember the Goldilocks? Too much information and the prospect will decide without you. Too little and the prospect will run away from you. But with a bit of curiosity, the prospect will want to know more from you. And your job is to give them enough information to whet their appetite so they want more. That's your goal of selling. The Goldilocks of selling is that. Too much, they decide without you. Too little, they run away. But curiosity and the prospect will want to know more. Does that make sense? Are you all still awake and asleep here? Drop your questions in the chat. I'd love to kind of give you some scenarios of how this can work for you. But I see a lot of technology businesses fall foul of this Goldilocks principle. That they give so much information about how cool it is and all the gadgets involved that actually the customer can read it and go, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, but we don't need that. It's not on my priority list. But yet, the problem, the pain and the outcome will be on their priority list. The pain and the outcome will matter to them. But all the little gadgets, they may just dismiss. And I've seen this work time and again with big companies, small companies, with £100,000 sales, with £2,000 sales. Doesn't matter where the sale value is. Ultimately, it boils down to, and think about this yourself, What does this get me? What does this get me? And that's the decision you want. People decide, this will get me this. I believe that this product or service will get me this. So you don't want them to evaluate whether they think it will get you there or not. You want to talk about what you can do to help them get there, what you can help them do to alleviate the pain, and how you're changing this through whatever service. And then they inquire and want to know more. That's the crux. I nearly swore then. That's the crux. That's the crux of, stop myself from making a slip of the tongue. That's the crux of selling B2B through digital channels. Now, I do have some time for questions, but summary, forget your product or service. Your goal is to sell the value of a conversation. So your post should just be creating curiosity so that people want to know more. Your messages, your calls, your outreach messages, all of that kind of stuff, your cold emails, they should all be about getting people to see that there's something you know that can help them and they need to know more. That's what you really want. That's what you really, really need to achieve. So do we have any questions? I'm just going to put up an ad on screen just for one of the courses that we're running next week. So if you want to come along, go find the details. We'll put the links in the chat. But does anybody have any questions or would like me to do any kind of demos on or explanations of how this can work in their business? If you're brave enough, I'll share real-time examples of your business and give you some tips about how you can implement this for your business. If you want to come to any of our events, this one's upcoming in 2 weeks. It's a full digital selling course. So yeah, so somebody on Facebook's just said, what's the document you mentioned earlier? It's our pain points document, what we call it a one client profile. So if you want that, just let me put up the email on screen again. Just bear with me. I'll put the email on screen. So there's the email. It's a one client profile, and if you email us, we'll actually send you it. No charge, no nothing like that. We'll just send it to you. But it's a critical document to really getting inside your customer's head, inside your customer's world, so you can talk to them in their way. Any other questions? Any other questions? A very quiet bunch tonight. Really quiet bunch. So one of the things, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a little story, and this will explain how I came across this stuff. So I've always been a reluctant salesperson. I've had sales jobs, but I never had a thick enough skin to actually make cold calls, you know, and I couldn't keep the motivation levels up. And so what I was always looking for was a method or a way of getting people to, I didn't mind like having a call or a meeting with somebody if they were interested. I just didn't want to do the whole, you know, dial in and all that kind of stuff to kind of just hit people up and hope it would work. And so basically, since I was 2004, so what's that? 15 years? 17 years. For 17 years, I've been working on strategies pre-internet as well. Or yeah, pre what we know internet now, dial-ups for those who are dinosaurs like me. How to get the attention of buyers, business B2B. I've always been B2B. How to get their attention so that they will come and pay attention to me. And I've done this, for an example, in 2006. I did this with and secured a deal with a publishing company for £1.5 million to take over their book production. And I just used the pain points and the frustrations to get their attention, and then they paid attention and we signed the deal. £1.5 million in book sales. And I was a much younger and less experienced then, but I somehow managed to do it. And I did it through direct mail. I did it through letters. I was writing to people back then because email was still in its infancy. Internet was still in its infancy. And I've used it over and over and over again and refined it and developed it into a more method. I can't even say that. Daniel, really good point. So when you're doing that kind of split screen thing, when you're doing that, yeah, that diagram where you divide it up in the what's the benefits and then the pains, as just as a simple one. I've done it like that. When you do that, that's the first thing you should do. What you need to think about is, if they're using a competitor's service now, what's going wrong? Yeah, what's the chink in the armor of your competitors that you can dig at and show them that your product or service closes that gap. If you're exactly the same as your competitor, you won't be, by the way. Nobody's exactly the same as their competitor. You need to find the weakness in your competitor's armor who's already in. So say you're a small business and they're with a bigger provider. The bigger provider has the advantage that, oh, we're huge and all that kind of stuff, and you know, we got millions of offices. But the downside of that is they're probably less personal. It's probably harder to reach them. The answers on tech support and all that kind of stuff is probably more generic. It's probably been outsourced. There's frustrations on communication, whereas you're in the UK and you're a small team and you can speak to one person and the same person each time. So what you're trying to do is map their pains to the current status quo. What's going wrong? What's your competitor doing that will be annoying your customers that maybe they're living with? And then you use those pains, the pains of the status quo, and really twist the knife, not at them, but twist the knife in terms of content and really talk about these problems that happen without obviously blaming and naming the competitors, because that's like not good business etiquette. But you can say, what happens when your CRM just does not deliver? What happens when you've got the greatest CRM on earth, but you're still not following up leads? What happens when your SEO you think is brilliant actually doesn't seem to be getting any better? It doesn't seem to be generating the volume of leads. You want it to get more, but it seems to be not, it seems to have bottomed out or topped out. So I'd be looking for what's the pain points of the status quo. So for many of you, the competitor is not a direct competitor. It might be an alternative option. It might be, let's say you do marketing services. The pain point might be the alternative or the competition might be hiring an in-house marketing person. But some of you will have a direct competitor, somebody supplying exactly or very similar product or service. You need to punch holes and map their pains. So how do you do that? Trustpilot's a good one. Look at the reviews, Google it, look around in support forums, see what the common threads are so that you can punch some holes in it. There might be industry knowledge that this product is good, brilliant for certain things, but not for other things. You're trying to map out and say, what's their pain points right now? Not what's their pain point. If you're trying to unseat a competitor, what's the pain points of not having a service at all? You're trying to punch holes in the existing service. The other thing I would do as well is think about, Daniel, what are the pain points that are coming? So for an example, sustainability. Is there a sustainability pain point on the horizon? Is there other issues on the horizon that you can adapt to? Is there things that your current competitors not talking about that you know matter to your customers, and you can highlight that, and then they can see the gap and the difference between you and the competitor because you've talked about something that matters to them. Any other questions? Oh, very quiet tonight. We normally have a rowdy bunch. No? So I'd love, if you're watching this, I'd love you to join us on our digital selling masterclass, our digital sales masterclass. It's a week on Thursday, this Thursday. There is a price to it, including VAT, if you want it. But it's quite an intensive program where basically we map this out in more detail and break it down in more detail so you can actually work along in the sessions and develop and build this out. So if you'd like that, we'll send you the links in the chat. We'll send a link round with the replay. If you want the slides, drop us an email. If you want this pain document, I'll just put it up on screen again. If you want a copy of this pain document, we're more than happy to give you a free copy. There's no catch or anything like that. Just email us and we'll send you a copy of it. But I'd love to see you on the Digital Sales Masterclass. So if there's no more questions, I am going to wrap up and say thank you for coming. Come find me on LinkedIn. Check out our other events, our live trainings. We've got running. We run one every Tuesday night on something a little bit different, all around sales, business growth, social selling, you know, the crossover between sales and marketing. So thank you for watching. Do check out what Maverick's doing, and I hope this has been of value to you. And if you want any info, drop us a line on email.